morning, students. Let us continue with our next topic related to privacy issues, and that is US laws. This is in continuation with the last session. Some of the laws we just introduced, and now we'll study in detail, and also related to international laws and regulations, in which we'll be studying about EU regulations, European Union regulations. So, some of the laws, as I said, we studied is US Patriot Act and others. So today we will study about HIPAA, HITECH, FISMA, GLBA Act, right, and various other laws related to US. And also we'll study about international laws and regulations of Europe and Canada. Let us see more about these. So let us see about FISMA first. FISMA is US Federal Information Security Management Act of 2002. As specified in the slides, agencies must ensure that all the FISMA policy requirements are met by the providers, including identity security procedures and processes, and several providers must work with the agencies basically to meet all the requirements, include annual agency audits and evaluations as well. So the agencies under FISMA, they have to meet all the policy requirements, including the identical security procedures and processes. And the service provider also must work with the agencies to meet all the requirements. So agencies should also consider how their private clouds can interact with public clouds for activities such as workload search, segmentation of processing and continuity of operation, and how that could then open an agency up to onwards transfer questions, internal privacy law implications and so forth. So these are the factors that need to be considered basically in a private cloud, and also when it is interacting with the public cloud. So agencies then should also be aware not only of the agreements with their third-party providers and whether these open them up to privacy issues, but also to any agreements with downstream providers that could have a potential impact on the agency in the event of a breach, legal action or inconsistency in data retention issues, or whether the downstream provider is not compliant with the FISMA. So the agency should be aware of all these factors. Now FISMA does not address data ownership. Agencies should ensure that they address the possible use of their data by provider and how they may open up with the agencies to privacy litigation. So it is very clear that FISMA does not address data ownership. So agencies must ensure that they address the possible use of such data, privacy data, by the provider and how they may open up with the agency basically for privacy litigation. Now, with respect to GLBA, which is Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act. So this was a rule or a law which was basically signed by Bill Gates. Bill Clinton, not Bill Gates, Bill Clinton. Right? So there are basically two key pieces to GLBA, that is to consider when we are discussing about the privacy implications of cloud computing environment in the US basically. So the two key pieces are financial rule privacy or financial privacy rule, and the second one is the safeguard rule. So under financial privacy rule, it requires that the financial institutions to provide their customer with a privacy notice upon the inception of the relationship and annually. So they need to provide the details to their customer whenever they are joining, that is the inception of their relationship, whenever the customer joins the organization, or maybe annually, that is every year. Right? So the privacy notice must explain some of the important things. So those things are listed here: information collection, how the information is collected, how it is sharing of data, how it is used and how it is protected. So these are the factors the privacy notice must explain. So the privacy implications of these activities within the cloud environment have many thorny issues and unanswered questions. Till now there are certain thorny issues are issues which are very going to create more problems. They are going to prick you, that is why it is termed as a thorny issue, and some of the questions still which are unanswered, specifically in a cloud environment. So GLBA also requires that the notice give a financial institution's customer the right to opt out, that is they can move out of the agreement of the information that is being shared with the unaffiliated parties. So they can opt out in the sense they can move out of the agreement, specifically when the information is being shared with the unaffiliated parties. Now financial institution also required to update their privacy policies. Whenever there is a change, they need to update it, and also at that specific time they should allow the customer to opt out, right? So financial institution may truly not state the nature of the use and protection of data. At times they are not very clearly stating, right? So they may truly not state the nature of use and protection of data when it does not have full control over the data. So this basically is done. They do not state it in detail because they do not have the control on the data. So they may not have a complete ownership also of the data, right? So it depends on what SLAs are being signed, and also may not be able to anticipate the dynamic use of data in the cloud applications. So they may not anticipate how the data is going to be used dynamically in the cloud computing environment. Now let us see about safeguard rules. Basically, this stipulates that a financial institution must perform risk management activities of the non-public information. In short, the information which is non-public, they should perform risk assessment of such data, right? So implement an information security program including periodic monitoring and testing of the program. So this should be consistently done. That is why it is termed as periodically monitoring, and specifically of information security programs they should be including, and also they should be testing such programs. So also update of safeguards are needed as and when it changes, and also how information is collected, stored and used. So data could change with respect to this category also. So the information security program of the financial institute must also consider the data security in the cloud, both in the transit and the rest mode. Transit means when the data is moving from one cloud to the other, and rest means when it is at a specific location on a specific server. So both in transit and the rest, and should work with its provider to ensure that the program is sufficient, is accurate and operating effectively. So the provider has to ensure that the program which he is providing is sufficient, is accurate and is operating effectively. So the institution should also consider how to adequately update or upgrade safeguards to allow for changes to collect, store and use data in the dynamic cloud environment. So normally these are the operations which are performed with respect to the data in the cloud, that is collection, storing and using of that data, and specifically when it is in a dynamic cloud environment, one needs to be more careful, right? Or even determine whether the updates are really necessary. So at times updates may not be necessary. So it needs to be checked whether these updates are really necessary. Now let us see about HIPAA. HIPAA, as we just introduced about it in the last session. So this basically regulates the use and disclosure of PHI, that is protected health information, and this is basically given by the health providers and health plans, but does not currently regulate their third party providers. This was of course when it was formed many years back. So organizations basically which are subject to HIPAA are required to enter into a business associate agreement with the third party providers to transfer PHI, that is protected health information, right? And this legally binds to the providers to effectively be subject to HIPAA regulations. So HIPAA is very important with respect to the health records and the insurance in US. Let us see about HITECH Act. So HIPAA was basically amended by Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health, that is termed as HITECH Act. So HIPAA, the old rule was amended by HITECH Act. So section of American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009, that is termed as ARR Act of 2009, relating to health information technology. Now basically the goal of HITECH Act was to drive a transition to electronic health records, that is termed as EHR, so that by 2014 all the US residents will have an EHR. Mind you, every US citizen has EHR, that is electronic health record. So this law provides a privacy and security framework and safeguard to establish public trust so that individuals accept EHR. Now HITECH law was basically, it had a significant impact on the CSPs, basically the cloud service providers, because the data was stored on the cloud and the cloud service providers are basically responsible for all this. So under this law, many of them are now business associates, and as such they have or they are subject to privacy and safeguarding requirements. So most of them under this law have become business providers, and also they need to provide privacy and safeguard requirements to all the data that is available with them. Right? So they also now are subject to the expanded rule of PHI breaches. So if there is any specific PHI breach, they are also responsible for that. So now these specific new requirements have a significant impact on the privacy and security safeguards that a CSP should implement. So as the data is with the CSP, as I said, so he should implement all the privacy and the security safeguards for all the data he owns. So a key area is protection, so that the patient information does not fall under the definition of unsecured PHIs and is developed or endorsed by a standard developing organization that is accredited by ANSI, that is American National Standard Institute. So this is accredited by ANSI. So organization should also consider the impact from a customer service perspective. So that is also important, because customer is more important here. So for example, the HITECH law requires covered entities that use or maintain EHRs to provide individuals with access to their PHI in electronic format if requested. So they are supposed to provide the electronic format of PHI, and if it is requested, of course they need to provide. So let us see about the international laws and regulations. So the international regulatory environment is basically driven by two approaches. That is basically represented by EU Directive 95/46/EC. This is termed as European Union Directive, and it is basically on the protection of individuals with regard to the processing of personal data and on the free movement of such data, specifically in the EU Directive, as I said, that was modeled by various countries, specifically by Europe and as well as under Canada. So this was processed, or basically this model was used by Europe and Canada, and it basically focuses on protection of individuals' data and with respect to specifically processing of personal data. So the other one is reflected by APEC privacy framework. We'll be seeing about APEC privacy framework. So under EU directive, basically it compels member states to implement and enforce data privacy legislations, national law that at a minimum satisfies the requirements set forth in the EU directive community or supranational laws. So they should basically, it basically focuses on enforcing the data privacy laws and basically at the national level, and with the minimum that satisfies set forth in the EU directive, and that is with respect to community or supranational laws. So processing of personal data is prohibited in specifically in European countries, unless of course there are certain restrictions that it is in compliance with both the sets of applicable regulations. So it has to be in compliance with the applicable regulations, only then it can protect or process the personal information. So the EU directive distinguishes between basically the data controllers and data processor. So there are two different entities in EU directives, data processors and data controllers. So if the CSP does not have the authority to make decisions regarding the processing of data, like for example acting only on the instructions from the data controller or the owner, he is basically in control with the data owner, he is not the data owner. So it does not subject, it does not subject to the same stringent rules. So the rules might be a little different and rules would not be so stringent. So controller, that is the user organization, is responsible, basically major responsibility lies with the controller of the data. So the controller is responsible for implementing an effective mechanism and also ensure that its use of third-party service providers such as CSP does not violate the rules. So they need just to ensure that the CSP does not violate the rules. Now EU directive contains several provisions to allow transfer of data. There are around 5 to 6 provisions. We'll see about it. So the data subject has given his consent unambiguously to proposed data transfer. So in this case the consent is given and it is very much unambiguous, means there is no confusion of proposed transfer of data. The transfer is necessary for performance of a contract between the data subject and the controller or the implementation of pre-contractual measures taken in response to the data subject's request. So this is necessary, basically the transfer is necessary for the performance of contract, and that is between the data subject and the controller, or maybe the implementation of pre-contractual measures taken in response to the data subject's request. Now the transfer may be necessary for conclusion of or performance, that is of a contract concluded in the interest of the data subject between the controller and the third party. So in this case it is necessary for the conclusion or performance of contract, and that needs to be concluded specifically in the interest of the data subject, that is between the controller and the third party. So the transfer is necessary or legally required on important public interest grounds or for the establishment, exercise or defense of legal claims. So the transfer is necessary to protect the vital interest of the data subject. So these are some of the EU directive that basically contain several provisions for transferring the data. Now EU directive, basically the compliance with EU regulations in cloud computing can be met, and provided the use of third party service provider is basically managed properly. So with respect to third party service providers, the things have to be maintained properly, especially if you want to comply with the EU regulations in the cloud computing environment. So the EU directive guidance on this matter is that the controller must, and where processing is carried out on his behalf, select a processor providing sufficient guarantees in respect of the technical security measures and organizational measures governing the processing to be carried out, and must ensure compliance with these measures. So compliance has an important factor to be considered in EU directive. Now the stringent requirements of the EU directive may present legal implications or legal limitations on the adoption of cloud computing, requiring organizations to increase the level of scrutiny on the CSPs. The CSPs are basically under strong scrutiny if there are any violations. So the requirement specifically is very stringent in the EU directive. Now let us see about APEC privacy framework. So this basically stands for Asia Pacific Economic Corporation, that is why it is termed as APEC, that's an acronym, privacy framework. This was basically established as a best practice for organizations operating within these economic areas. So these guidelines are not mandatory and and as such they may be adopted by participating economies as a part of their laws. They are not mandatory as it is specified. So these are just guidelines, not kind of protocols. So there is a significant effort by the key APEs economies to drive board adoption of the framework. Now the APEC privacy framework is implemented via a pilot pathfinder led by the multiple economies within the region. So this is basically led by the multiple economies, and it is basically implemented via a pilot or a pathfinder, and the pilot involves both government and private sector. The involvement is of both the private and the government organizations and should provide a consistent approach for data transfer within the region. So there has to be a consistent approach for transferring the data within the region. So successful implementation of the framework can be provided by a stronger basis for CSPs to operate seamlessly across borders. So the operation should be in such a manner that it is seamless, means they are not aware of any changes. It is very in a seamless manner in spite of it being on the borders. So across the borders it needs to be seamless. Then it would be considered as a successful implementation. These are the assignments for today. Just have a look at it. Very much related to the laws we studied about US and the international regulations. So if you have any query, you can contact me at the specified email ID. We are done for today. Thank you.